right, looks like we're up and running. Welcome everyone. Today, happy Friday. We're going to be talking about how 5 tips to improve your travel photos. And of course, if you've been watching me do these streams, if you've been watching my tutorials over the years, some of these may not be new, but they're good refreshers anyway. And I think a couple of them I have not shown live yet. So we'll get a chance to see a couple of instances or examples that are kind of new. So with that said, welcome everyone. Hello Keto Goddess. Hello, looks like Renee's in the house. Artists, welcome, welcome, welcome everyone. Hello Victoria. Victoria's in the house as well. Hello Denmark. Eric, I see you over there. And I could be giving shout outs all day. Hello Bernard. But I think we should probably go ahead and get to the topic at hand. We want to keep these as short as possible. But of course, YouTube, we tend to go a little longer. And Fridays, we tend to go a little longer. So with that said, let's go ahead and jump into it. All right, so you guys, let me go ahead and switch over to my computer and then give you some examples of what I'm talking about. Now that we're looking at my computer, I'm going to be showing these examples both in Lightroom and in Photoshop CC. So we'll start off in Lightroom. Trust me, we will go over to Photoshop because there's some things I need to do that Photoshop can do that Lightroom can't do or can't do as well. And hello, I see everyone coming in now. Guile, Arthur, Michael, AJ, Rick, Blue, Health and Fitness, Design Art Studio. Hello, hello, hello. Happy Friday, everybody. All right, so I'm here in Lightroom, and this first example is one that I attempted to show earlier this week when I was having all those streaming issues. So I can't even remember which channel, if any, I successfully showed this on. So we'll start out with that example just to make sure we get it out there for everyone to see, and then we'll move on to some other examples. So the first example, you travel to a beautiful place, you get this beautiful room with a nice view, and you want to show off that view, and you end up with something like this. Let me show you. You end up with this, where you get a nice shot of the room, maybe the room's exposed, but outside is completely blown out. Or you get the opposite. You get the nice view outside, but no one can see the room. And you're like, what's going on? What's wrong with my camera? I can see both at the same time with my eyes, but yet there are cameras that just don't do this yet. Now, the photographer way of solving this is with HDR. Hey, Jason's in the house on YouTube, by the way. If you guys haven't followed Jason, go ahead and follow his channel. He does video and audio. He does all the stuff that I don't do. So if you're interested in video, audio, After Effects, Audition, Premiere Pro, follow Jason Levine over on YouTube. All right, so, and he also streams on the Facebook pages for Premiere Pro and After Effects and video and audio as well. I think we have a channel called Video and Audio. All right, so anyway, back to the problem at hand. You either end up with this one or this one. And what I'm going to recommend you do from now on is one of two things. If you are shooting with your smartphone and your smartphone's camera app has an HDR feature, HDR stands for high dynamic range, go ahead and turn that option on. That will help in those situations. If you are shooting with a mobile device, download Lightroom Mobile. It's free to download on both iOS and Android, and it has a wonderful HDR mode that is way better than what you would have gotten with the standard camera. So if you shoot in HDR, that will most likely get you a decent exposure where you can see outside and inside at the same time. If you're shooting with a regular camera, DSLR, and you don't have an HDR mode on your DSLR, many of them don't, newer ones, some do, then what I want you to do is go ahead and take both shots. Take the one where it's properly exposed for the inside, take the one where it's properly exposed for the outside, because you can combine them together when you get back to your computer. All right, so I'm in Lightroom. I'm going to select both shots. And I can either right-click and do this, or I can go to a menu and do it. I'm just going to right-click, or it's just a keyboard shortcut. I'm going to right-click, I'm going to photo merge, and I'm going to choose HDR. Because Lightroom and Photoshop's Camera Raw have HDR built in. So when I choose HDR, that will bring up this dialog box and it will put the two exposures together. Look at that. I can see outside, I can see inside. It will also auto-align them because back 7 years ago when I took this photo, I was just hand holding my camera. I wasn't on a tripod, so of course there was movement between the two shots. And because of the auto-align that's built in, it went ahead and aligned them properly. Now, there's a couple other problems we're going to fix, but let's go ahead and merge them together. When you merge the 2 or 3 or 5 or how many images you took together, Lightroom will create a brand new raw file from those images. So there's a brand new HDR raw image resulting from those two images. So here's the new image I can do anything I want with now. It created the new image, put it in the same folder as the old images, and away I go. By the way, that was my hotel room 7 years ago in South Africa. So now I'm going to go ahead and go to the Develop module. And in the Develop module, I'm going to fix a few things because although it gave me a good exposure, there are still other things wrong with this photo. The first and most distracting thing, you're going to see me do this a couple times. So tip number 1, shoot in HDR or shoot for HDR and combine it like I just did. So you get the proper exposure when you have challenging lighting situations where it's impossible for your camera to capture it all at once. So that's one. Does it help? Okay, so one person is asking, does it help to take more shots? It could. It will increase the dynamic range, and in most cases, people usually with the DSLR will take 3 shots. They'll take the one that's overexposed, the one that's underexposed, and one that's kind of in the middle. So they'll bracket for 3 exposures or 5. I haven't seen it really help much beyond 5 exposures. So yes, it can help to do more. Is it absolutely necessary to do more? No, it's not. Hey, Patrick Coster's in the house as well as Positive Image. Welcome, guys. All right, so we got the 2 images together, and now we're going to go ahead and fix one of the most distracting things that you're going to see in most people's travel photos, but we won't see it in your travel photos anymore, and that is a crooked image, a crooked horizon line. In other words, this room doors looks like, this patio door looks like it's leaning a little to one side. And to fix that, I'm just going to switch over to the crop tool. Now I can rotate the crop, but then I'd be doing it manually. Well, in Lightroom and in Photoshop, there is a straighten or angle tool, this little ruler. What that will let me do is click on the ruler, and then I can use the ruler to draw a line that should be straight. So in other words, this line across the window should be straight. So I'm drawing it at the angle it is now, telling Lightroom to straighten it based on what I just drew. And it will go ahead and just automatically do it for you. All right, so now that I've got that straighter, and you can draw it up and down as well. So if you don't have a good line going across, you can draw it up and down and get the same effect. Now there's a couple other problems with this photo. It's still a little overexposed inside the room. So for example, I could go in and maybe pump up the blacks a little bit. I could increase the clarity a little bit. I could bring down the shadows just a bit. They were a little bit pushed too far to the right. But no matter what I'm doing, it's still just too much light coming in from that window. So let me undo, put it back to the way it was. And what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to go to the effects panel. And in the effects panel, I've got dehaze. Dehaze is perfect for a bright, sunny, hazy day like this. With dehaze, I can just drag the slider to the right, and it will start to pump up the colors and take off some of the haze in the room, but it's also, unfortunately, negatively affecting the room. The window's looking awesome, but the room is starting to get a little too much dehaze. So let me back off of it a little bit, and let me show you another way that you can use it. You can use dehaze a couple of ways. You can use it with the graduated filter. You can also use it with the adjustment brush. So last time I showed this, I showed it with the dehaze filter or with the graduated filter. Now I'm going to show it with the adjustment brush. So with the adjustment brush, you get a brush and you can literally brush on dehaze on just the window, just the parts of the photo that are a little too hot, a little too hazy, without affecting the rest of the room. So if you see me painting here, hang on for a minute. There we go. I am now painting that inside the room here. Show you what I was doing here. Oh, hang on. Ah, that camera's off, that's why. Hold on one second. For some reason, that camera isn't. Oh, there it goes. All right, let's see if we can get that one back. All right, there we go. So now you should be able to see me painting that in. And I'm just using my Wacom tablet, my Cintiq, to kind of paint that right on the edges of the curtains too, to kind of bring that haze down just on the areas I want to bring it down on. So now if I crank up the dehaze, it's only doing it in those spots. It's not doing it everywhere else in the room. So I don't want to go too far with it, but you get the idea. Probably get a little bit more off the curtains here. Bring back some of that rich tone in the curtains where the sun was just really blowing them out. All right, and we got it. Now, there's more I could do, but we're not going to spend the entire time on just this one shot. So if I go back out, again, this is where we started. And we started with that one, and we ended up with that one. So a much better exposure where I can see the inside of the room and the outside of the room, which is the goal. Trying to show off how great your room is and how great your view is all in one shot. Okay, next up, along the same lines, this was captured with 3 exposures. This was captured on purpose with 3 exposures, one underexposed, one overexposed, and one kind of in the middle to create an HDR. So we're just going to right click on it. Now, if I go Photo Merge HDR, it will bring up the dialog box again. So I'm going to show you a bonus tip for when you want to do the same kind of HDR you just did over again without having to bring up that dialog box. If you do Control H, that brings up the dialog box. You do Control Shift H, that just does an HDR without the dialog box. So I can see the progress bar, it's already doing it, and I didn't have to worry about bringing up the dialog box, waiting for a preview to be built, just to click OK. And by the way, that's a background process, so you can go on and do other things while you're waiting for that. Okay. All right, so here comes the HDR. And again, we're going to fix the common problem. The most distracting part of this photo, besides some of the exposure issues, is that crooked horizon. So once again, we go to the crop tool, we grab our angle tool, and we got a nice, cool, easy line to do it on. We can do it right across this line here, and that will straighten out our horizon, and then we're good to go. So now from that point on, I could go in, let me check one thing on this photo. Let's go to lens corrections. Let's enable the lens correction. See how much bowing that took out of the photo automatically just by turning on the lens correction profile. So it will identify what camera you shot it with, if it's a recognized camera, and what lens, and automatically correct for that lens on that camera and fix it for you. So that was one. And you should definitely do those 2 things to your travel photos. Next up, we're going to just again make this shot look a little better. So because it's a landscape, we can usually go a little bit crazier on things like vibrance. And I usually don't use saturation on on people, but on landscapes I absolutely do. And I usually don't use clarity on female subjects, but this is a landscape, so I can absolutely do that. Great so far, but again, that hazy kind of not so great sky. So let's go to our graduated filter. Let's choose the preset for that to be dehaze. And now I've got that set. I can just go ahead and pull this down and get right down to about there. And now I can not only dehaze that sky and make it really crunchy, but let's not go that far. I can also apply other things gradually from the top down. So for example, if I wanted some more saturation in the sky, I can do that. If I wanted to give some more shadows in that top part of the image, that'll give me that. And also maybe the blacks to make that a little sharper there. And we also have sharpness. So just going from, and again, using these sliders, whether you do it in Lightroom or whether you do it in Camera Raw, will give you a photo that went from to wow. That's one that I will put on my wall. As a matter of fact, I did. That's on my wall downstairs. All right, so those are the kinds of things. Why straighten before lens correction? Because I forgot to do lens correction first. That's why. So you don't have to do the order. Do it in the order you want. Next up, let's go in and talk about removing distracting elements. So removing distracting elements. This is actually a friend of mine. This is someone that works at Adobe, a contractor for Adobe, Kathy. She gave me this picture of her and her husband, and she said, "Can you make this picture better?" Well, there's some exposure issues, but the biggest distraction in this photo is this stem growing out of the top of his head. This is referred to as a merger. That's the technical term for that when you have something sticking out of the person's head in the back of the photo. You want to see the funniest merger? I captured it myself by accident. Didn't know it was there until I got home and looked at the photo. And I could not stop laughing for maybe 15 minutes when I saw this. All right, here we go. Funniest merger I ever captured. See this guy right here? That's not his hair. That's a plant. That's a tall plant standing behind him. And there's the other plant. So it's right there. There's another plant right behind him. He's standing at the perfect spot for that to be his afro. So I was cracking up on that shot. And now it became an example. All right, so with that said, let's go back to Kathy. All right, so a couple things right off the bat. We'll go to the develop module. Let's try and fix some of these exposure issues. So just maybe bring up the exposure a little bit overall. That's making it better right off the bat. I don't like the way the background is kind of like being cut off, like it doesn't go all the way out to the edge of the photo. So at this point, I would probably use that as an opportunity to crop. There we go. So that the background fills the background of the photo. And now at this point, there's reflection in his glasses, this little stem, these little water drops that really don't add anything to the photo. It's really time to correct for some of this. And again, this is one of those where I could kind of do it in Lightroom, but it's much, much easier to do this in Photoshop. All right, so let's go ahead and right click on this photo, edit in Photoshop CC 2017. We're going to edit a copy of it, not the original. Oh, hang on. Oh, no. I should have said copy with Lightroom adjustments because now it's going to come in without the exposure. So we'll let it launch Photoshop without the exposure. Let's close that without the cropping. I should have chosen the other option. Let's get rid of this one. There we go. And let's right click on that one more time. Edit in Photoshop 2017. I want to say with the Lightroom adjustment. So make a copy, but keep the crop and keep the exposure adjustment I did. Okay, so now, all right, then that's your experience. Okay, I was just reading someone's experience there with Lightroom and the order of doing things. By all means, do it in whatever order works best for you. So I'm going to switch over to my spot healing brush. And of course, with the spot healing brush, we can easily get rid of things that may be a distraction in the photo, like so. Just going ahead and painting those things out. Right off the bat, that's just making things look a lot better because we're not distracted by those bad looking pieces of the fruit or vegetables that he's standing in front of. Now we got to get rid of that thing at the top of his head. So we could clone stamp it out. We could try and spot heal it out, but I'm going to use the patch tool. I'm going to use the patch tool on content aware fill. So we'll just make a selection around that little spot. We'll get a little bit of his hair and we'll move it over to that spot. And that will take it out pretty perfectly. Okay, so we'll make a brush a little smaller. Oops, smaller, not bigger. And we don't want that to look like an exact duplicate. As a matter of fact, we don't need that at all. And now for the reflection in the glasses while we're here, we could either patch that out, but I'm going to try and spot heal it out. All right. Just start, when you look at your photos, just look at your photo and ask yourself, is there anything that's a distraction in the photo that's taking your eye off the main subject? And if there is, remove it. Now, one of the other distractions I took out originally in this photo was I got rid of the shadow behind her hair. Because as I looked over the photo after I got rid of those things, then the shadow became the next distracting object. So I think I removed that with the clone stamp tool. I could try it with a patch though, content aware patch. We'll see what happens. I just don't have the time to do it today with the clone stamp tool. Although it probably wouldn't take that long. Let's try a patch though. Not too bad. Content aware patch is good on edges as opposed to normal, which isn't good on edges. And clone stamp would have done it a little bit better, but we got it done. All right, so save, close, come back. Now we have our original and we have the edited version. So we have this one, all kinds of distracting elements, and that one. So much, much less distracting. So get rid of the distracting elements in your photos. All right, next tip. And this tip has to do with geolocation. So geolocation. All right, by the way, let me turn this long list of folders open that's distracting me now. Turn that up. All right, so let's go to this photo. All right, this photo, we'll move that one over there. This photo is one that's actually a screen grab, or not, I shouldn't say screen grab, a frame grab from a video. It's from one of my drone shots. I just wanted a still frame of that. And of course, the next question would be, where is this? That's what people are always going to say. Where did you take that? Where is this waterfall? I want to go to that waterfall. I want to take that photo. This is in Iceland. So one of the ways to answer that, where was I when I took that photo, is to use the map module or geolocations. Now, the great thing is your smartphones already have the, when would I remove the skin redness? When I have more time. So that's when I would remove it. All right, but anyway, your smartphones and smart devices will automatically, if you allow it in the preferences, capture the geolocation. So that's a privacy thing. It's turned on if you allow it, and if you don't allow it, then you're not going to have it. So when you take a picture with your smartphone, you're automatically capturing the geo coordinates of where you were when you took that photo. So for example, at the base of that waterfall, friends of mine and I, we took a selfie. So we were there at the base of the waterfall. His daughter, I think, this guy's daughter, took my phone and took the selfie. And of course, because it was with my smartphone, there is a geolocation flag on that photo. So if I click on it, that will show me exactly where or approximately, I shouldn't say exactly, approximately where we were when we took that photo. So we were right there. So guess what? The drone was probably right about there at the time the photo was taken, or actually made more like out here, shooting that way. So I could either do one of two things. I could drag, now that I know where I was, drag the drone shot right to that same spot if I were standing in the same spot, so what I'm recommending here is if you have a DSLR that doesn't have GPS, take out your phone, snap one photo, put your phone away, then shoot all you want with your DSLR. When you come back and you got 300, or I shouldn't say 300, you got 30 shots in the same location, now you can drag those 30 shots to the same spot you were with your phone. So same thing here. It wasn't the exact same spot, so I can take this screen grab and I can drag it to the approximate place. I was probably standing right about there flying. And oh, it did put it in the same spot. Let me undo that. I was too close to it. Let's put it here. All right, then I can move it. All right, so I can move it there. I'm going to say, yep, I was right there when I took that shot. And now that image will have the geolocation in it. Why does that matter? Why do I care about the geolocation? Because as you probably have found out, yeah, that's fine. As you probably have found out, when you share photos on social media, if the geolocation is in the photo, and you share it to places like Instagram or Foursquare or wherever, or Facebook even, it can detect that geo information and suggest the location to tag when you share the photo. So great, when I share the photo, that geolocation will be there now because I've added it in Lightroom. So it's there forever now unless I ever take it away, that geolocation will always be there for me to use. All right, so with that said, 5 tips for working with your summer travel photos. Make sure I covered them all. There is one more, hang on. There's one more that I don't have my sample photo, that's why I didn't see it. Let's see if I can find one really quick here. It might be in here. Let's see if I can find one really quickly here. All right, yeah, here, this one will do. Okay, we got one more tip. And this will coincide with travel because this happens all the time with travel. Whenever you take cityscapes or you just take pictures of tall buildings, you're downtown and you're traveling, chances are if you're on the ground level and you're doing this with your camera and shooting upward, you're going to get these weird kind of angles and leaning and buildings falling in on each other because that's just what happens when you take an image of something up tall from down below. Luckily, you can correct for that. So if we take this image into the develop module, which we did, and you go to your transform tab, you have the ability to do upright. Now, upright's been there for years. In Lightroom CC, you have the ability to do auto, level, vertical, and full. Guided is fairly new. So let's see what each one does. Let's try level. Well, that kind of straightens the bottom out a little bit, levels the photo. All right, let's try vertical. Vertical does an okay job, getting the building straight up and down. Full will give me full, but crop some of the image off. That's pretty cool. And auto doesn't quite straighten them up as tall. Maybe I like full better. So yeah, full makes them just a little bit more straighter. So it's really up to you to pick which one you want. Now, if neither of those is doing what you want, we've added guided. So let me turn it off again. And what guided allows you to do is choose what you think should be straight, just like the ruler did. So if I go in and I say, well, I know that edge should be straight, like so. And it only works if you do 2 or more guides. So when you do 1 guide, nothing will happen. And then you can go over to the other building, and you can say, well, it should be straight along that angle. And then that will go ahead and straighten it up based on what you just did. You can also drag horizontally across, and that will give you what you just did. Now, of course, it would need some cropping because guided doesn't do the cropping automatically. You can either use the crop tool, or you can just go in and scale it up to crop it. But with crop, you would have, well, not a whole lot more flexibility because you need to cut off those edges. But that would do it for you. All right, so upright, either auto, full, usually the 2 you're going to use the most, sometimes vertical. But guided lets you do it manually exactly the way you want. And then once you get out of guided upright, you've got your photo. All right, so now we have our 5 tips for working with your summer travel photos. And hopefully that helped you out. Now, if you want to learn more cool stuff, obviously follow these channels and keep watching the streams, but also note that we do twice a month or every other week, 2 or 3 days of live streaming all day long. Those streams happen at adobelive.com. And so we didn't do it this week, but that means we're doing it next week. So to tell you more about it, just watch this. All right, so check out adobelive.com next week and learn more about those 2 days of streaming on the 8th and 9th of June. 8th and 9th, yeah, those are the days. Okay, so check that out next week. You'll see it happening live from 99U in New York, bringing on an all-star cast of streamers that will be doing graphic design. So does that mean if I download a Facebook photo and check the location where it's at? No. Facebook strips that metadata away for any that you download. So no. Nice try though. All right. So with that said, everybody take care. Thanks for watching. Have a great weekend. We'll catch you later. Bye everybody.